Hey guys, this is Madison Nicely. I am interviewing Brian and Liz Price today in their living room on May 9th, 2018. I've known the Prices coming up on 5 years this summer. They were some of our first neighbors when we moved to South Carolina. What were some surprises you've dealt with in your marriage?
She doesn't do everything I tell her to do.
Some funny things that you didn't expect. You know, I lived with my parents until
we got married.
So I went straight from my mom and dad's house into our
My
house
house.
together. And Brian didn't know that my mom up until that point still took care of me pretty much. She did my laundry sometimes, and things that I guess I took for granted I didn't know that you had to do. And so it was a little bit of an adjustment for Brian because he had to start doing them. Well, for example, the toilet paper on the roll. You know, I didn't really think it magically got there. I knew how to put it on the roll, but it's also super easy to sit it right on top too. You know, and I do think I struggle a little bit with ADD. And so it's just I've got to get somewhere else. I got to go somewhere quick. So I would just sit the toilet paper right on the top, and he would come in and be like, "Babe, seriously, you're so close to putting it on the roll. Why don't you just why sit it on
Just
top?"
put it in.
And so I do so much better these days.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would get out the shower, I'd go and I'd put my towel on the bed. He's like, "Babe,
Wet towel.
Wet towels on the bed.
On a
You're gonna get
comforter.
mildew in there." And then I'm like, "Oh, okay." But do you think after he told me that it changed it? No, I just kept doing it because I just didn't think about it. So those were some of the struggles. I think the struggles were just us shifting and adjusting with the change of each other's expectations. I don't think we really some things that he thought maybe were common sense or just everybody did, I didn't do.
Mm.
And so it was just an adjustment. So I would say those were some of our struggles.
Mm.
And then
Definitely
the
towel
struggles too.
and toilet paper.
Towel and toilet paper. We're definitely
And we still have relapses every once in a while.
yeah.
We're able to handle those.
Is your marriage what you expected it to be?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been a process. of working on that. I think
Yeah.
for us, probably year 5, year 6, really kind of getting to a place of saying, just kind of winging it and kind of doing it our way. It's just not going to work. And it really had nothing to do with necessarily our involvement in church and God and whatnot. But we really needed to sit down and make sure we were working together and understanding each other's needs. And I think a big turning point was just really kind of understanding love languages. Mm-hmm. And for even though we had already been married for 5-6 years at that time, we had never read that book. And so we sat down and we started realizing, we're trying to tell each other we love each other in 2 different ways. And so our communication level increased and our expectations changed. The way we tried to serve each other changed. And so from that point, it kind of really gave us a good starting point of how to do life together, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so now I feel like we worked so hard probably for 10 years. Now we're kind of over that hump and we're kind of reaping the benefits of all that hard work, if that makes sense.
Well, I think too, we got married when we were 20 and 23. So we really were very young, and we didn't really know what to look for, in a husband, or him and a wife. And so I think that we definitely, it's been a learning as you go type thing. And we've grown together. We really weren't, I think in your early 20s, you learn a lot about who you are and you grow and figure all that out. And so we were really figuring that out together. So I think that was a big part of that for us too.
Yep.
How do you deal with conflict or difficult times?
She just needs to listen to what I tell her to do.
He says, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, dear." Well, it's funny because when we first got married, he hated conflicts, any issue, any argument we would get into. he didn't want to sit down and talk about it. He would just like go to the other room. And I'm like, babe, we have to talk about this. And I think it's just how he was raised. Like that was a part of what they did in his family. And in my family, if there was any issues, like we're sitting down talking about this tonight. Like this is not, my dad, mom. And so he had to learn how to communicate through conflict and talk about it. So that was definitely an adjustment for you.
It was just not the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And so if there was conflict, you just
Swept it under the rug.
yelled, screamed, and then act like it didn't happen. And then so.
Which that's just crazy to me. You know how you would just brush those kind of things.
Just the way we were raised, totally
Right.
opposite. So we learned to communicate,
Yeah.
do that better, and really at the end of the day, just realizing that no matter what our conflict was, big or small, her love for me wasn't going to change. So even if it felt tough, we would go through it, and then once we got through it,
Yeah, I think because Brian's parents are divorced, and so I think what Brian has seen is that if it gets bad enough, then you just go your separate ways, And so I think the whole idea of you being committed to somebody through all the conflict or disagreements or whatever, that was kind of a new thing for him. And so I think that took some adjusting and like trusting, learning to trust. So communicating is how we deal with our conflicts. To get back to your answer,
which took practice. It took time and effort on both of our ends. So.
Name one strength and one weakness in your marriage.
Communication.
It is.
I would say that's for both.
Well, and it's
Because
because
we communicate well,
we do.
and then sometimes we don't.
Because
You know
you're
what I
so
mean?
busy and you're going
Yeah.
and you're going in different directions. She's got things she's got to do. We got the things with the kids, and so it is funny because we've mentioned communication several times because that's what this got us to where we're at.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when you do have a breakdown in what's going on and you end up in an argument or a disagreement, it goes back to communication.
Especially when he's like, "Babe, I told you about this," and I was like, "I don't remember that."
Did you not get my email? Did you not get my text? Did you not get my Facebook message? So,
Yeah, so I mean, like when we do well communicating, then we do well. Like it's good, it's great. And so then we hit times when we're like, "Gosh, we need a reset, a communication reset," because we're struggling right now, kind of communicating with each other. So I don't know if that could be the same answer for her.
Yeah.
Definitely.
yeah, communication is the key.
Do you have a saying or motto your family lives by?
You win some,
Oh,
you lose some.
Lord. No, that's not it.
I thought that's what it was. You
Always assume the best.
You won me?
Always assume
You
the
could-
best.
Okay. So not win some, lose some?
No,
Sorry.
no. I think it's always assume the best.
Always assume the best. And that was a tough one.
Yeah.
I think
Just
just
when you're feeling frustrated.
you're feeling
you
frustrated.
want to be mad for a minute,
Yeah.
But if you assume the best and you assume his intentions are for the best, then you take it a lot different. Sometimes you just get frustrated and you're like, I want to be mad for a minute.
Well, then at the beginning when we didn't I didn't communicate well. It's real easy to assume the worst possible scenario, and she would say over and over. She was like, "You need to stop assuming the worst and assume the best." And when we would get down to the nitty gritty, it was like, okay, it's not quite as bad as my head led it to be.
Right.
So, but sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some.
How has your marriage changed over the years?
How we got 2 little ones.
That's true.
That has changed.
Well, that changes a lot. A baby
Changed.
changes everything.
Changed a lot.
Yeah.
It was wild. When we first got married, we were young. I
We were
had
babies.
just finished college, not long after college. Liz was in college, so that's kind of how we got married. And she finished up college, started her nursing. I had switched from, I was a computer programmer, then went to the school and started working at school
or
and
the
the church.
and then the school.
And so career paths kind of changed there, and then we started having kids, and then your life changes a lot all over. Now you have 2 kids, and
Priorities.
you just kind of go through those seasons.
Yeah.
And so what we have learned is to embrace those seasons, and try to say, okay, there's something we can gain, there's something we can learn from it, and make the best of it. And a lot of that comes from Liz's upbringing, and what she brings to the table is that we're just going to make the best of every situation we get. And so a lot of people know that about Liz, and she's fun and exciting, and the kids, I have to force them to say that I'm their favorite, but I don't know if that answers that question.
We kind of keep getting off. We're like, what was the question?
If you could go back and change one thing, what would it be and why?
You know, I try to live with no regret.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's anything I would change, because what my fear would be if you change it,
The
we
next one
wouldn't
up.
be where we are.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been easy. Anybody that's been in a long marriage will tell you it doesn't happen overnight. It has been a process, but I mean, I think we would both agree and say our marriage has never been better.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like we would have said that last year and the year before, and we are in a better place even now this year. But that's because we work at it. You know, now we're kind of at this place where I think we're trying to outlove each other, and it's a big deal for our kids to see that. And so, you know, we're trying to pour into them. So we're just in a different stage of life, just in marriage and with kids.
No, I wouldn't say to change it.
Okay, last one. What is your biggest piece of advice that you would give to a single young man or woman today?
I think the biggest thing is to not settle. I think so many people are just searching for love or that one, that they throw out their priorities and what they're looking for in a husband or wife. And I really think that early on you need to lay out what those things that you're looking for. I believe God kind of puts that into your heart, and so and there's some safeguards of why you put that there, so you don't end up with that person that in 4 or 5 years you're in divorce, or
Yeah,
you
so like
find out.
making a list of what you feel like is important. And then I think too, like your parents are older and wiser, and so when it comes time that you feel like you found the one, you have their approval and their blessing on it too. That's something that's really important, because at our age of 20 and you being 23, the thing is that I appreciate about Brian right now so much, I didn't know to look for those in a husband at the time. And so, but my parents could see those qualities in him. And so I think because of that, thank God that they saw that in him, and they agreed, and they blessed our marriage. But I think you have to have that wise counsel to give you direction in your relationships like that, because when you're younger, you just don't know a lot of it, and you settle for something that looks good at the moment, but you don't realize how important other dynamics are for your future.
You're so worried you're going to miss out that you just settle.
And praying and like feeling a peace about the person that you're with is really important too. And making sure that the other person's priorities align with what your priorities are in life also. If God's number one, that should be their number one thing too. So making sure the priorities are the same also. What do you think?
Thank you, Brian and Liz, for inviting me into your home and allowing me the chance to interview you for my project. I chose this couple because they show each other the love, respect, and admiration I want in my marriage one day. My greatest takeaway from this interview was good communication is key. Without good communication, many things can get misinterpreted, which leads to conflict.